A man at the bar put his hand on mine and said, "I'm your father and you need to come with me right now." I yanked my hand away from this complete stranger and stared at his weathered face. My father died in a car accident when I was 8 years old. I'm Sarah. And I was just trying to have a quiet drink after work at Murphy's bar downtown when this man in his 50s approached me. He looked nothing like the photos I had of my dad. This guy was taller, grayer, with deep lines around his eyes that spoke of years spent looking over his shoulder. But something about his voice made me pause instead of immediately walking away. "I know this sounds insane, Sarah, but your life is in danger and we need to leave this place immediately," he said, glancing nervously toward the entrance. "There are people looking for you because of who I really am." I told him he was crazy and started to gather my purse. That's when he said something that made my blood freeze. He knew about the scar on my left ankle from when I fell off my bike at age 6. He knew I was allergic to strawberries but loved strawberry-scented shampoo anyway. He knew my middle name was Rose, after my grandmother. These weren't things you could find online or through social media. These were intimate family details that died with my father 13 years ago. "The night before the accident, I read you, Charlotte's Web, and you cried when Charlotte died," he continued, his voice urgent but gentle. "You made me promise to never leave you like Charlotte left Wilbur. I broke that promise, but not by choice." My hands were shaking now. No one knew about that conversation. My mother had died 2 years after my father, and I'd never told anyone about our last bedtime story together. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a faded photo of me as a child, sitting on someone's shoulders at a carnival. I recognized my tiny pink dress and missing front teeth, but I'd never seen this picture before. In it, I was laughing and pointing at something off camera, looking completely happy and safe. "I took this the day before I had to disappear," he said softly. "You wanted cotton candy, but I said it would spoil your dinner." I remembered that day. I remembered the sticky fingers and upset stomach afterward. But my mother told me I'd gone to the carnival with my Aunt Lisa, not my father. "The car accident was staged," he whispered, checking the door again. "I worked for people who required me to vanish completely to protect you and your mother. I've been watching from a distance for 13 years, making sure you stayed safe." My mind was reeling. This man knew details about my childhood that even I had forgotten, but he was describing a completely different version of my family history than what I'd grown up believing. "Why now?" I asked, surprised by how small my voice sounded. "Why are you telling me this now?" His expression darkened, and he grabbed my wrist gently but firmly. "Because the people I was hiding from found out I'm still alive, and they just figured out you exist." He pointed toward the window behind me. A black SUV had pulled up outside Murphy's bar, and 2 men in dark suits were getting out. They moved with purpose, scanning the street before heading toward the entrance. "They've been tracking your credit cards, your phone, everything," he said, standing up and pulling me toward the back exit. "The only reason I know is because I still have contacts in the agency." My father was supposed to have been an insurance salesman. Nothing he was saying made any sense, but those men outside looked exactly like the kind of people you see in spy movies, and they were definitely looking for someone. As we reached the back door, I heard the front entrance open and heavy footsteps crossing the wooden floor. The bartender's cheerful greeting was cut short by a gruff voice demanding to know if he'd seen a woman matching my description. My supposed dead father put his finger to his lips and slowly turned the handle of the back exit. That's when I heard one of the men say something that made everything click into place. And that's when I realized my entire life had been built on a lie. "The Wilsons are here for Sarah." That's what I heard from the front of the bar. The Wilsons. My mother's maiden name. My father, or whoever he is, tightens his grip on my arm and pulls me through the back door into the alley. The cool night air hits my face as we stumble into darkness. The distant sound of traffic, a stark contrast to the immediate danger closing in behind us. "Move," he whispers urgently, guiding me toward a rusty fire escape. "They'll check the alley first." My mind is racing, trying to process everything. This man knows things only my father would know, but he's not the man in my photos. The car accident was staged. My mother knew. My entire childhood was fabricated. We're halfway down the alley when the back door of Murphy's slams open. A beam of flashlight cuts through the darkness. "There!" a voice shouts, followed by the unmistakable sound of a gun being cocked. The stranger, my father, pushes me behind a dumpster just as the first shot rings out. The bullet ricochets off brick, sending fragments flying. He pulls a handgun from his jacket, where did that come from? And fires 2 shots in return. "Stay low," he orders, his voice eerily calm. "When I say run, you run. Don't look back." Another shot from our pursuers, closer this time. I can hear footsteps approaching. "Now!" he shouts, firing 3 more shots in rapid succession. We sprint toward the street, weaving between parked cars. A black sedan waits at the curb, engine running. He yanks open the driver's door, motions me inside. "Get in! Slide over!" I dive across the center console as he jumps in behind me. The tires screech against asphalt as we peel away from the curb. In the rearview mirror, I see 2 men in dark suits emerge from the alley, guns raised. "Who are those people?" I demand, my voice shaking. "What did you mean about the Wilsons?" That was my mother's maiden name. He takes a sharp right turn, throwing me against the door. They're using names they know you'll recognize. Standard procedure when extracting a target. Target? I'm a marketing assistant, not a... They're not after you because of your job, Sarah. He cuts through traffic with practiced precision, running a red light and narrowly missing a delivery truck. They're after your blood. I stare at him, certain I've misheard. My blood? He glances in the rearview mirror again, his weathered face tense. The SUV is following. Hold on. He makes a sudden U-turn across 4 lanes, ignoring the blaring horns. We speed down a one-way street in the wrong direction, then duck into an underground parking garage. He kills the headlights, navigating by memory through the darkness. We need to switch vehicles, he says, pulling into a reserved spot. Stay close. We abandon the sedan and cross to a nondescript blue pickup truck. He retrieves a key from under the wheel well, and minutes later, we're back on the road, heading away from downtown. You said they want my blood, I remind him. What does that mean? His knuckles whiten against the steering wheel. It means you're special, Sarah. More special than you know. We drive in tense silence for 20 minutes, taking a circuitous route through industrial areas and abandoned lots. Finally, we pull up to what appears to be an old fire station, its brick facade weathered and windows boarded up. Home sweet home, he mutters, pulling into the back lot. For tonight, anyway. Inside, the fire station is surprisingly habitable. Emergency lights kick on as we enter, revealing sparse but functional furnishings. A bank of monitors displays security camera feeds from around the building. Sit, he says, gesturing to a metal chair. We're safe for now. I'm not sitting or doing anything until you tell me who you are, I say, standing my ground despite my trembling legs. You claim to be my father, but my father died 13 years ago. He sighs heavily, reaching into his jacket. I flinch, but he pulls out a leather wallet and flips it open to reveal an official-looking ID card. Thomas Reed, Strategic Intelligence Division, he says. I was your father's partner. I stare at the ID, then back at him. You're not my father? No, his expression softens slightly, but I knew him well. We worked together for 15 years. As what? An insurance salesman? Thomas laughs bitterly. Is that what they told you? No, Sarah. Your father was one of our best field operatives. Deep cover, high-risk assignments. The kind of work that makes you enemies. He moves to a filing cabinet, pulls out a thick folder, and places it on the table between us. Your father uncovered something he shouldn't have. A program within our own agency, experimenting with genetic modification. When he threatened to expose it, they came after him. The car accident was staged to get him into witness protection. And my mother, his eyes darken. She knew everything. She agreed to maintain the cover story to keep you safe. Her death wasn't an accident either. The room seems to tilt around me. I grab the edge of the table to steady myself. Why now? I manage to ask. Why after 13 years? Thomas opens the folder, revealing medical charts and lab reports. My name is on all of them, because they finally connected the dots. Your father did more than discover their program, Sarah. He altered it. He points to a complex diagram of DNA strands. He changed you. Your blood contains a genetic immunity marker that makes you invaluable to certain organizations. Changed me? What are you talking about? Your father was a scientist before he was a spy. He engineered a protection into your DNA before you were born. Something that could save millions of lives or be weaponized in the wrong hands. I sink into the chair, my legs finally giving out. This can't be real. I wish it wasn't. Thomas's voice is gentle now. But those men at the bar, they'll keep coming. I fumble with my phone, hands still shaking as I try to call Jess. My best friend since high school. The only person who might notice I'm missing before morning. Thomas watches me from across the room, his eyes never leaving me even as he taps commands into a laptop. You shouldn't use your personal phone, he says, but doesn't try to stop me. They'll be tracking it. I need to know if they're at my apartment, I say, pressing the phone to my ear. I need to know how far this goes. Jess picks up on the third ring, her voice groggy with sleep. Sarah, it's almost 2 in the morning. Are you okay? I need you to tell me something, I say, trying to keep my voice steady. Is there anyone at my apartment building? Anyone unusual? There's a pause, then rustling sounds. Hold on. I can see your place from my window. More rustling, then a sharp intake of breath. Holy shit, Sarah. There are men in suits going in and out of your building. And there's a black SUV parked outside. My stomach drops. Thomas was right. Sarah, what's going on? Are you in trouble? I can't explain right now, I say, but I need you to stay away from my apartment. Don't talk to anyone who asks about me. Say you haven't heard from me in days. You're scaring me, Jess says, her voice rising. Should I call the police? Thomas is already shaking his head. No police, I tell her. Those men, they're not who they seem. Just stay safe, okay? I'll contact you when I can. I hang up before she can ask more questions. Thomas extends his hand for my phone, and after a moment's hesitation, I give it to him. He removes the battery and SIM card, then crushes both under his boot. They were already there, I say, the reality of my situation sinking in. How did they find me so quickly? They've probably been watching you for months, Thomas says, returning to his laptop, waiting for the right moment. Your father's genetic modifications were revolutionary, worth billions to the right people. I don't even know what that means, I say, pacing the concrete floor. What did he do to me? How am I different? Thomas sighs, closing his laptop. I'll explain everything, but first, you need to learn a few basics if you're going to survive. The next few hours pass in a blur of instruction. Thomas teaches me how to break free from different holds, how to disable an attacker, how to move through a crowd without being noticed. My muscles ache and my mind is overwhelmed, but there's something oddly familiar about the movements, as if my body remembers things my mind doesn't. You're a natural, Thomas says after I successfully break his grip for the 5th time. Your father started training you when you were 4, disguised it as games. I stop mid-motion. I remember, he called it monkey escape. I thought all dads played it with their kids. Thomas smiles, a rare expression that softens his weathered face. While I catch my breath, Thomas retrieves another folder from his cache of documents. This one is thicker than the first, labeled simply, Sarah Rose Wilson, Medical. Your complete medical history, he says, placing it on the table. Every blood test, every vaccination, every doctor visit since you were born. I flip through pages of lab results and medical terminology I don't understand. What am I looking for? Thomas points to a recurring notation on multiple pages. Immunity marker SRW7 present and stable. SRW7, he explains. Sarah Rose Wilson, 7th attempt. Your father created a genetic immunity marker that makes you resistant to virtually every known bioweapon. He engineered it into your DNA before you were born. I stare at him in disbelief. That's not possible. It wasn't supposed to be. Thomas agrees. But your father was brilliant. He discovered that certain genetic sequences could create universal immunity. When he realized what his research could be used for, he destroyed his lab notes and encoded the only working version into your DNA. So I'm what, some kind of human vaccine? More like a template, Thomas says. With your blood, they could mass-produce protection against weapons that could kill millions, or they could reverse engineer it to create something that bypasses all known defenses. I feel sick. My entire existence reduced to a genetic experiment. Did my mother know? Everything. Thomas confirms. She agreed to the procedure. They both wanted to protect you, to give you something that might save your life someday. Thomas's phone buzzes. He checks it, his expression darkening. We need to move, now. What's wrong? I contacted an old colleague for help, he says, already gathering essentials. Someone I thought I could trust, but they've triangulated our location. We have less than 10 minutes. We grab only what we need. Documents, weapons, a small bag of supplies. Thomas leads me to what looks like a maintenance closet, but behind the shelving is a narrow tunnel. The original fire station had an emergency exit, he explains, handing me a flashlight. Leads to the storm drainage system. Move fast, stay quiet. We're halfway through the tunnel when we hear the crash of the fire station door being breached. Thomas pushes me ahead of him, his gun drawn. The tunnel opens into a larger drainage pipe, ankle deep with murky water. This way, Thomas whispers, guiding me through the darkness. We've gone maybe 50 yards when a splash behind us betrays a pursuer. Thomas shoves me against the wall, puts a finger to his lips, then steps back into the shadows. I hold my breath, terrified and disoriented in the near darkness. A beam of light sweeps the tunnel, followed by the silhouette of a man. Thomas moves with shocking speed, silent and efficient. There's a brief struggle, a muffled grunt, then the sickening sound of a knife entering flesh. The flashlight drops, illuminating the water with its fallen beam as Thomas lowers the body gently to minimize noise. I stare, frozen, as Thomas wipes his knife on the dead man's jacket. He killed him, without hesitation, with practiced efficiency. Sarah, Thomas says softly, retrieving the fallen flashlight. I follow him mechanically, trying not to think about what I just witnessed. We emerge from a drainage outlet half a mile away, where another vehicle waits, an old Jeep with mud-splattered plates. We drive for hours, winding through back roads into the mountains. Dawn breaks as we approach a small cabin nestled among thick pines. It looks abandoned, but Thomas enters a code on a hidden keypad, and the door unlocks with a soft click. Inside, the cabin is sparse but well-equipped. What catches my eye is the wall of weapons, rifles, handguns, even what looks like explosives, all neatly arranged behind a reinforced glass cabinet. Welcome to Safe House B, Thomas says, securing the door behind us. We should be okay here for a while. I sink onto a threadbare couch, exhaustion finally catching up to me. I don't understand any of this. Why would my father do this to me? Why would he leave me? Thomas sits across from me, his face solemn, because he had no choice. The people hunting him would have killed you both to get what he knew, what you carry in your blood. He hesitates, then adds the words that turn my world upside down again. And Sarah, there's something else you should know. Your father, he's alive. I stare at him, unable to process this new revelation. That's not possible. You said the car accident was staged? Yes. Thomas nods. But not to fake his death, to get him into deep cover. He's been in hiding all these years, continuing his research, trying to find a way to neutralize the threat so he could come back to you. Before I can respond, headlights sweep across the cabin windows. Thomas is on his feet instantly, gun drawn, but he relaxes slightly as he peers through the blinds. "It's the director," he says, holstering his weapon. "She must have tracked my emergency protocols." A tall woman with silver-streaked hair enters the cabin, flanked by 2 armed guards. Her eyes find me immediately, studying me with clinical interest. "Sarah Rose Wilson," she says, her voice surprisingly gentle. "You look just like your father. I'm Director Elaine Harmon. I've been waiting a very long time to meet you." "Is it true?" I demand, finding my voice. "Is my father alive?" Director Harmon exchanges a look with Thomas. "Yes," she confirms, "but there's much more to this story than you know. You're not just James Wilson's daughter. You're the culmination of his life's work. The most valuable research subject on the planet." Director Harmon's words hang in the air like a physical thing. Research subject. Not daughter, not person subject. The clinical detachment in her voice makes my skin crawl despite her gentle tone. "I'm not a lab rat," I say, rising to my feet. My legs feel unsteady, but I force myself to stand tall. "I want to see my father. Now." The director exchanges another look with Thomas, some unspoken communication passing between them. She sighs and gestures to one of the armed guards, who produces a tablet and hands it to her. "Your blood contains a genetic marker that could save millions of lives," she says, swiping through files on the screen. "SRW7 is the only successful universal immunity marker ever created. It could protect against every known bioweapon and most natural pathogens." She turns the tablet toward me, showing diagrams of DNA strands with highlighted sections. "Your father engineered this into your genetic code before you were born. It's part of you at the cellular level." "So what?" I demand. "That doesn't give you the right to hunt me down like an animal." "No," Director Harmon agrees, surprising me. "It doesn't. But there are others who would do much worse to get what you carry. The men at Murphy's Bar weren't ours." Thomas steps forward. "They're a private military contractor working for a biotech company. They've been tracking genetic anomalies for years, looking for exactly what you have." "How do I know you're any better?" I ask, looking between them. Director Harmon's expression softens. "Because I was your father's friend. I helped him disappear when they came after him. I've been protecting you from a distance ever since." "If that's true," I say, "then take me to him." "It's not that simple," she replies. "Your father is." "What does that mean?" Thomas places a hand on my shoulder. "Sarah, there's something you need to understand. I was your father's partner for 15 years. We worked together, fought together. He saved my life more times than I can count." His voice drops lower. "The night before the accident, when he read you Charlotte's Web, he made me promise something. He said, if anything happens to me, you watch over my little girl. You keep her safe until I can come back for her." The mention of Charlotte's Web hits me hard. I remember crying when Charlotte died, making my father promise he wouldn't leave me like Charlotte left Wilbur. And then the very next day, he was gone. "I've kept that promise for 13 years, Thomas continues, "watching from a distance, making sure you were safe. When they started closing in, I had no choice but to bring you in." Director Harmon interrupts. "We can offer you a deal, Sarah. Cooperate with us, give us controlled samples of your blood for research, and we'll take you to your father." I look at Thomas, searching his face for any sign of deception. Is she telling the truth? Before he can answer, one of the guards steps forward and whispers something to the director. Her expression changes instantly. "We need to move," she says sharply. "They've tracked us here." What follows is a blur of activity. We're rushed from the cabin to a waiting helicopter. As we lift off, I see black SUVs converging on the cabin below. Thomas grips my hand reassuringly as the helicopter banks sharply away from the mountains. Hours later, we arrive at what looks like a medical facility. White corridors, security checkpoints, staff in lab coats. I'm taken to a sterile room where doctors in surgical masks prepare equipment for blood extraction. "Just a few samples," Director Harmon assures me. "Then we'll discuss your father." But something feels wrong. The doctors won't meet my eyes. They take vial after vial of blood, far more than seems necessary for samples. When I protest, they simply ignore me. "That's enough," I say finally, pulling my arm away as they reach for yet another needle. "You promised to take me to my father." "Soon," one of the doctors says vaguely. "We just need to complete the baseline tests." Thomas isn't here. They separated us when we arrived, and now I'm alone with strangers who see me as nothing but a walking petri dish. I feel like a fool for trusting them. I'm left alone in the room to rest, but the door locks with an electronic click when they leave. I press my ear against the wall, trying to hear what's happening outside. 2 voices, just barely audible. "Complete extraction protocol once the sedatives take effect. Director wants everything we can get before disposal." Shame really, but too dangerous to keep around after. My blood runs cold. Disposal. They're going to kill me once they've taken what they need. I look around the room desperately for anything I can use. The medical tray still has several empty syringes, I grab one and hide it under my shirt just as the door opens. Thomas stands there, blood on his sleeve, a wild look in his eyes. "We need to go," he says urgently. "Now." "What happened?" I ask as he pulls me into the corridor. "I overheard their plans," he says grimly. "Harmon's been compromised. She made a deal with the biotech company. They get your blood. She gets funding for her black projects." Alarms begin to wail as we run through the facility. Thomas knows the layout, guiding me through service corridors and past security checkpoints using stolen access cards. We encounter 2 guards, but Thomas takes them down with practiced efficiency before they can raise their weapons. We're almost to the vehicle bay when shots ring out behind us. Thomas stumbles, then falls against the wall, his hand pressed to his side. Blood seeps between his fingers. "Go," he gasps, shoving a set of keys into my hand. "The black SUV. Take it and drive north." "I'm not leaving you," I insist, trying to support his weight. Somehow, we make it to the SUV. I help Thomas into the passenger seat, then slide behind the wheel. More shots ping off the vehicle as I start the engine and crash through the security gate. We drive for hours, Thomas directing me through gritted teeth as I follow winding mountain roads. His breathing becomes more labored, his instructions less coherent. Finally, he points to an unmarked dirt road. "There," he whispers. "Cabin. End of the road." The cabin is small and isolated, dusty from disuse. I help Thomas inside and lay him on a threadbare couch. His face is gray with pain and blood loss. "First aid kit," he manages. "Under sink." I clean and bandage his wound as best I can, but it's bad. The bullet went clean through, but he's lost a lot of blood. "Sarah," he says, his voice weak but urgent. "Listen carefully. Your father is alive, but not like you think." He fumbles in his pocket and pulls out a small notebook. "These coordinates. Research facility in northern Canada. That's where you'll find him." "I need to get you to a hospital," I say, but he shakes his head. "No time. They'll be tracking us." He grips my hand with surprising strength. "Your father engineered that immunity into you because he knew what was coming. Biological warfare on a scale no one's prepared for. Your blood is the template for universal protection." I feel tears streaming down my face. "I can't just leave you here." "You have to," Thomas insists. "I'll slow you down. There are supplies here. Emergency radio. I'll be okay until you can send help." He presses the notebook into my hand. "Promise me you'll find him. He's waited 13 years to see you again." I gather what supplies I can: food, water, first aid for Thomas, a gun he insists I take. As I prepare to leave, Thomas calls me back one last time. "Sarah," he says, his voice fading. "Your father was the best man I ever knew. Everything he did to protect you." I lean down and kiss his forehead. "I'll come back for you. I promise." As I drive away from the cabin, heading north toward the coordinates Thomas gave me, I realize I'm no longer the person I was 3 days ago. That Sarah died in Murphy's bar when a stranger showed her a carnival photo and told her everything she knew was a lie. The coordinates lead to Canada, to my father, to answers, and I'm going to find them, no matter what it takes. The coordinates lead me to a desolate stretch of northern Canada where pine trees stand sentinel against the bitter wind. The research facility is nestled in a valley, all glass and steel, incongruous against the wild landscape. Thomas's access codes are my only way in, and I pray they still work as I approach the security gate. I swipe the keycard at the entrance panel, holding my breath. The light flashes green, and the gate slides open with a mechanical hum. Too easy. Something doesn't feel right. Inside, the facility is eerily quiet. My footsteps echo on polished floors as I move through sterile corridors, following the building schematics Thomas sketched in his notebook. I pass laboratories with darkened windows and empty conference rooms. Where is everyone? The central research wing requires another access code. I punch in the numbers, and the doors slide open to reveal a cavernous space filled with blinking servers and advanced medical equipment. In the center stands a cylindrical chamber, frost clinging to its glass surface. I approach slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. Inside the chamber, suspended in some kind of bluish fluid, is a man. His eyes are closed, his body unnaturally still. Tubes and wires connect him to the surrounding machines, monitoring vital signs that barely register. "Dad?" I whisper, placing my hand against the cold glass. A voice from behind me makes me jump. "He can't hear you." Not in the conventional sense. I spin around to face a woman in a lab coat, her gray hair pulled back in a severe bun. She doesn't seem surprised to see me. "You must be Sarah," she says, her voice clinical but not unkind. "We've been expecting you since Thomas's security codes were used at the gate." "Who are you?" I demand, my hand instinctively moving toward the gun tucked in my waistband. "Dr. Eleanor Weiss. I was your father's colleague and friend." She gestures to the chamber. "The cryogenic suspension was the only way to keep him alive after the assassination attempt." I stare at the man in the chamber, searching for any resemblance to the father in my childhood memories. The face is gaunt, aged beyond its years, but I recognize the curve of his jaw, the shape of his brow. "Is he conscious?" I ask, Dr. Weiss approaches a control panel, not in his body, but your father was always thinking ahead. She types a series of commands, and the wall of screens behind her flickers to life. A face appears, my father's face, but animated, alert, watching me with intelligent eyes. Sarah, the digital face says, its voice eerily similar to the one in my memories. You've grown so much. My knees nearly buckle. Neural mapping, Dr. Weiss explains. Before his body was damaged beyond repair, we uploaded his consciousness to our systems. He's been waiting for you. The digital face, my father's consciousness, smiles sadly. I'm sorry I couldn't be there for you, Sarah. I had to disappear to protect you. Protect me from what? I ask, my voice breaking. From becoming what I made you. He says, the SRW7 marker in your blood wasn't just an accident or experiment. It was deliberate. I engineered it into your DNA before you were born because I knew what was coming. Alarms suddenly blare throughout the facility, red lights flashing in warning. Dr. Weiss rushes to a security monitor. Security breach, she says tensely. Multiple entry points. They've found us. The facility goes into automatic lockdown. Steel shutters slam down over windows and doors, trapping us inside. They can't get what's in your blood, Sarah. My father's digital voice says urgently. The immunity marker was phase 1. Your blood contains the key to unlocking genetic modifications that could change humanity forever. In the wrong hands, it could create weapons that target specific genetic traits, ethnicity, eye color, anything written in DNA. How do I get out of here? I ask, panic rising as I hear distant gunfire. Dr. Weiss pulls a small device from her pocket, similar to a portable hard drive. We need to download your father first. He contains all the research, all the fail-safes. She connects the device to the system, and a progress bar appears on screen. My father's digital face flickers. There's something else you should know, Sarah, he says as the download progresses. The immunity marker wasn't random. I designed it specifically for you, a protection against what I knew they would create to find you. I don't understand, I say. Your blood doesn't just contain immunity. It contains a targeted defense system that recognizes and neutralizes synthetic bioweapons. It's why they want you so badly. You're not just the template for a vaccine, you're the antidote to their most powerful weapons. The download completes just as the sounds of combat grow closer. Dr. Weiss hands me the device. Everything your father is, everything he knows, it's all in there now, she says. Go through the maintenance tunnels. They lead to an emergency exit on the north side. What about you? I ask. What about? I gesture to my father's suspended body. Her expression hardens. I'll initiate the purge protocols. They can't be allowed to get his body or the research here. Before I can protest, the laboratory doors burst open. Thomas stands there, bloodied but alive, flanked by armed men and women in tactical gear. Sarah, he calls, relief flooding his face. Thank God. I run to him, clutching the device containing my father's consciousness. How did you? I told you I'd be okay, he says with a weak smile. Got help from some old friends who weren't happy about Harmon's betrayal. The facility shudders as explosions rock the lower levels. Thomas's team secures the laboratory, disabling the automated defenses and checking for hostiles. We need to move, Thomas says urgently. Harmon's people are right behind us. I look back at my father's suspended body. We can't leave him. Thomas follows my gaze, understanding dawning in his eyes. Is that? Yes, I say, but he's in here now. I hold up the device. His consciousness, his memories, everything that matters. Thomas nods grimly. Dr. Weiss, can you stabilize him for transport? She shakes her head. The system is too complex. Moving him would kill him, and the facility's self-destruct has already been activated. Another explosion, closer this time. Thomas grabs my arm. We need to go, now. As we rush toward the exit, I clutch the device containing my father's consciousness. It's warm in my hand, humming with data with life. We make it to the helicopter just as the facility erupts in flames behind us. In the days that follow, Thomas's loyal faction secures us in a new safe house. I agree to controlled medical research on my terms. Small blood samples, ethical protocols, oversight from people I trust. In return, they provide protection and resources to continue my father's work. The portable device becomes our link to my father. We connect it to secure systems, and his digital consciousness guides our research. It's strange talking to a father who exists as code and pixels, but his knowledge, his love for me, those are real. I never wanted this life for you, he tells me one night as I sit alone with his digital presence, but you've handled it with more courage than I could have imagined. I had good examples, I say, thinking of Thomas, who risked everything to keep his promise. We're establishing new identities now. Thomas, myself, and my digital father, an unusual family forged through secrets and sacrifice. The men who hunted me are still out there, but we're no longer running. My blood is still valuable, still dangerous in the wrong hands, but it's also mine to control now. The genetic gift my father engineered into me before birth wasn't a curse after all. It was his final act of protection, ensuring I would survive whatever came after him. I'm not just a research subject anymore. I'm Sarah Rose Wilson, daughter of a man who loved me enough to rewrite my DNA, and now I get to decide what that means.